Hi guys, we are looking today at lesson 8-6, which is called area of a rectangle. Now we're going to be looking at the area of a rectangle using fractions, obviously, because we've been doing multiplication of fractions. But before we do that, I want to just go back into things that you learned in third grade, fourth grade. We touched on it a little bit in the beginning of fifth grade, which is just straight area and perimeter of shapes like rectangles and squares and things like that. So before we get into the fractions, remember if I have a shape like a rectangle and I want to find the area and the perimeter of this rectangle, I would obviously need to know what the sides measured. So let's say this side measured 3, this side measures 7, and I know when I'm talking about a rectangle, the opposite sides are the same measure. So if this side is 3, this side would also be 3. If this side's 7, this side would also be 7. Now, even though we're not focusing on perimeter on this lesson, one of the things that goes with area is perimeter. So when I am looking at perimeter on whole numbers, remember I'm just going around the rim, perimeter, around the rim of the shape. So in order to find the perimeter of this particular rectangle, I would start at one of the corners and I would go 3 plus 7 plus 3 plus 7 until I get back at the place that I started. So when I add those up, 3 plus 7 is 10. Another 3 plus 7 is another 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. And if I'm telling you that my units were inches, I would just say 20 inches. If I'm finding the area of that same rectangle, remember our formula for area is area equals the length times the width. So those numbers are also interchangeable, meaning it's the same thing as a basic multiplication fact. If I can do 3 times 7, I can also do 7 times 3. So my area for this is going to be 3 times 7, which is 21. This time, when I'm doing the area, it's going to be 21 inches square. Because remember, if you go back to when you were in third grade, we actually had squares built into that rectangle. So the very beginning part was they would cut this into 3 rows. They would cut it into 7 columns, and then you would just count all of the boxes and you would find that there were 21 boxes or 21 squares inside that. Now that you know multiplication facts, you don't have to sit and count squares anymore. Okay, so knowing that, when we go now today into the solve and share, and I am on page 487 right now, our solve and share says a rectangular poster is 1/4 of a yard wide and 3/4 of a yard tall. What is the area? Solve this problem any way you choose. You can use appropriate tools like grid paper to solve the problem. Again, like any other problem, you don't have to use the grid. If you want to use the grid to help you, that's fine. But it's going to be 1/4 across, and it's going to be 3/4 in width. So if I wanted to draw a model, it's 1/4 by 3/4. You can also look at it like this so that you know. I'll make one more column there. You've shaded 1 of the 4 parts and you've shaded 3 of the 4 parts. So when I go to find my answer, if you're using the grid, your answer is going to be 3, but it's no longer 3/4, because if I'm looking at it in grid form like this, I don't have 4 boxes total anymore. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 by 4. So my final answer would be 3/16. If we take the grid away and we strictly solve using the multiplication that we've been doing the last couple of lessons, doing 1/4 times 3/4, and I'm just multiplying across. 1 times 3, 3. 4 times 4, 16. That's my 3/16. So again, I'm getting the same answer. If you feel more comfortable drawing out the grid for yourself, that's fine. If you say, I don't need the grid at this point, I am understanding how to just multiply across, also perfect. Our unit here is yards. And again, we would say square, yard square, or square yards, because it is a measurement of area. Okay, if we take a look back, or down at the look back, is the area of a poster that is 3/4 yard wide and a 1/4 yard tall the same as the area of the poster above? So again, we had short side, long side. If we flip it around and we just hold the poster in a different direction, so the first time I was looking at it like this was my 1/4, this was my 3/4, and I found the area. If I take the poster and I hold it this way instead, and the top is now my 3/4 and my side is 1/4, is it going to give me the same answer, or is it going to give me a different answer? That's all they're asking. So we know that holding it a certain way, we call it orientation, the orientation doesn't matter. If I have my book and my book is this wide, it's this wide, whether I'm holding it like this, or even if I hold it on an angle. So my answer obviously is going to be yes, they're going to be the same answer. Both of them would be 3/16.